is one of the scariest things to you? Maybe a fear you have, like arachnophobia or being afraid of the dark. But that isn't what I'm talking about. I want to know what is something, a situation, a feeling, a sound that makes your stomach drop. Something that makes your heart race, sends chills down your body. Perhaps it's even the lack of something, the unknown. What was in the dark? Did I hear something just now? When will the killer find where I'm hiding? You don't know, and will not know until you find out. These are the feelings, the moments, the nightmare that is captured in the horror game Five Nights at Freddy's. If you don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's is a game where you are a night guard at a children's entertainment and pizzeria restaurant. You start the game in a dark room with a fan buzzing loudly and children drawings all over the wall. It's eerily dark and quiet, aside for white noise from the fan. A phone rings and you are told by a voice that you need to check the surveillance cameras, check on the children's beloved animatronic band, and that you have doors that you can close in case of, well, obviously nothing bad could happen, right?
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
There's an art behind making horror good. Sure, there's scary music, scary concepts like monsters and ghosts or jump scares to give you adrenaline, but slap all that on a movie and it might not be scary at all. Things like that are in classic old horror movies, and watch those back and they don't make you feel uneasy. In fact, they might seem quite cheesy. It's the same for video games as well. There are games that are bad at making the player scared and games that are good at it. Making something that truly strikes players with dread involves creating a nightmarish atmosphere. One where you can't predict or plan for what's coming next, but you also can't run. You can't escape. And as most games do, your goal is to win, forcing the player to think under the stress and panic, to succeed. The fears the unknown. Being visual creatures, humans are most comforted by sight, because of our ability to discern objects, action, and consequences based on a picture. As a result, cutting visual stimuli and sticking purely to audio or speech is one of the best ways to keep a player on their toes. Even with weapons, it's very hard to find what you cannot see, and what you do not know. This is why many horror games or movies have you in a dark place or a current night. You can't see what's coming for you, so you can't be sure what to do. The lack of preparation and a plan for the player makes them feel on edge, because anything could happen at any moment. Now, while unknowns are scary, it's even more terrifying when you have a vague understanding that there is something wrong. The knowledge that you aren't alone. The knowledge you aren't safe. Anticipation. Anticipating that something is coming for you. Now, consider human nature, the fight or flight response to fear. Imagine having these options taken from you in a bad situation. Horror movies do it all the time. You can't run because you are stuck or hurt and the killer's approaching. Or you can't hide because the creatures you're escaping from don't need to see you. They rely on scent and vibration to find you. One by one, options are taken from you, limiting your safety, limiting your survival. Five Nights at Freddy's uses all of these techniques to create a nightmare of dread and unease that is inescapable. You start out in this office with lots of questions, but almost immediately realize that those animatronics are coming for you. You can't leave until your shift ends at 6 a.m., so there's no escape. You can't fight them. The only thing you can do is ration your power and try your best to protect yourself. Now sure, it's clear that the situation we're in is frightening. It's upsetting things to be subjected to. There is more, though. I mentioned the things you hear playing the game. Creaks, noises, or footsteps that raise questions and anxiety in the player. The unknowns. The aspects meant to immerse you. The sounds and visuals that help you feel like you're in this very office. Listening is very key in Five Nights at Freddy's. You cannot move, and well, you can check your cameras, but that uses power, which is limited. Listening intently means you can hear the very light movements from the animatronics. You can hear pots and pans clanging when someone is in the kitchen. You have to pay attention to sound, to the cameras, to every detail, and have incredible focus so they don't get to you. Otherwise, you'll be met with a surprise. There's another thing I want to touch on. We know the game's designed expertly to cause fear, to make you jumpy, but I want to talk more about how brilliant the setting and themes the game feature are. The unique use and unexpected horror revolving around something like animatronics. Somewhere that feels like a safe place, somewhere a kid is supposed to be having fun. These spectacles of entertainment, fun attractions for children, but you are all alone with them, and they're walking towards your office. Now, wait a second. Where did Scott even get the inspiration for this game? Animatronics aren't scary, maybe a bit clunky and cheesy, but they don't scare me. Oh no. These are real animatronics, broken and old. I'm not sure about you, but they terrify me. I think it's because of the way they fall directly into the uncanny valley, moving and singing like a human would, but in a way that's far too mechanical and unsettling to sit right with me. Now back to before all of that. Lots of horror media use innocence or childish things to create a creepy, unsafe feeling in players. Hearing children laughing or singing in the middle of a dark forest, seeing something like a doll in an abandoned building. They're all common horror tropes, and it frightens people because of the aspects of lost innocence. Childhood is when children should feel the safest and be allowed to be vulnerable and innocent. To take a place that's supposed to be a happy, fun, party place and turn it into a house of nightmares, it makes people feel unsettled. Because it's not supposed to be like that. This game was made by an indie developer, Scott Cawthon. It wasn't produced by a big video company or well-known people. Made in 2014, this game grew to the success it has today because of the unique premise and terror-inducing gameplay. I'm only covering the first game, but this Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has so many games. Last I checked, 10 main ones. There's mobile games, and I know there's one coming out on consoles. Each game has the same thing in common, being a horror game. They have familiar premises, but each are different, and some feel like completely different games. I wanted to mention this because the game started from nothing, and grew to huge success because of its well-crafted game design. There wasn't a game with a similar experience before it. To craft a horror game that not only understands how to scare players, but also has a premise that feels new and completely unfamiliar. It's impressive. I'm not saying this game is perfect or the best horror game, but that doesn't mean it isn't excellent at what it set out to do, scare you. The usage and understanding of what it takes to frighten audiences, the well-crafted environment, and the game being designed for immersiveness, it all comes together and makes a terrifying horror game. One that has been relevant and in the hearts of people ever since the game first released in 2014. It's refreshing to see interesting and unfamiliar concepts put out into media and games, especially horror, because it can get stale easily. I really appreciate Five Nights at Freddy's because of the way it stepped out of the usual boundaries and topics of horror. And the game is terrifying. The sound and game design is no joke. Fully immersed and filled with adrenaline, you know your death is imminent. The only thing you can do is focus.